it going, guys? This is Alec Cohen. I'm so excited to be here at the Pro Video Coalition booth at NAB 2024 with someone I'm lucky to call a friend. This is William Baker. William, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
So I go by William H. Baker on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and I do some recreation stuff, shot breakdowns, basically filmmaking education. I try to aim for a really budget-level style of going about it to educate people on the accessibility of resources, basically.
Yeah, and the crazy thing to me about William's journey is like he would be tagging, when I was at Aperture, he'd be tagging Aperture and Amran, probably had like 5,000 or 10,000 subscribers, and you were kind of starting this thing of like, let me light 30 shots in 30 days. Tell me about that first step in your journey, and then we'll talk about what's happened since then.
Yeah, so basically 30 shots in 30 days came up because I had all this gear, like nice lights and a nice camera, and I wasn't doing anything with it. I was editing weddings, so all I needed was a computer, and I was kind of tired of like just not using the stuff that I spent money on. So I decided it's time to just use it, and I picked 30 days specifically because I didn't think I had the finances to do any more than 30 days. And it did balloon a little bit into being more like 30 shots in 90 days.
Sure.
But I really didn't have the resources to do much more than that, and it was kind of a let's see what happens sort of thing.
Well, the shots were amazing, and I'm looking at these things like you're using a Blackmagic, you're mounted vertical, you're using like a COB 60, and it's like, this looks incredible. How is it? What was like the secret sauce when it was really down and dirty for you to really make it look good?
Honestly, I feel like I learned how to make it look good over the course of that entire time, but just prior to doing the 30 shots, one of the big things I was looking at was just some set design elements, and then biggest thing that I did in almost every shot was lighting the background.
Yes.
Like I just threw a light on the background, and then that created that nice background separation, and 100%. That was kind of the first time I'd ever really thought about lighting the background instead of just the talent.
Absolutely. It's so important, and it's like often in this kind of content, I don't want to say this kind of content, but often the content I see online, lighting's kind of secondary, and that's what I like, that you kind of put lighting first, and I actually think, in my opinion, you kind of spawned a wave of content. But I'm gonna pause right there and let's go back, because there's so much to talk about what happened after. But leading up to this point, you're originally from West Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about like growing up. When did you pick up your first camera, and what was that journey like?
So I didn't actually want to be a filmmaker at all starting out. I thought maybe I'd write books or something like that. I knew storytelling was kind of the thing I was interested in doing, but I thought filmmaking was too hard. So I was like, I have no clue how to get started into this. But at some point, we just decided, like, friends of mine, we decided, let's make a YouTube channel, And I was the only person with a computer, so I had to do all the editing. This was back when I was like sophomore year of high school, and I found out that I really enjoyed the editing. Like, there's a lot you can do to tell a story through just like what clips you pick and when you put them. So I just kept pursuing that. There was this media program at my school, and essentially it was a class where you just make short films.
Amazing.
And after doing that, I'm like, oh, I love more than just editing. I like the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I just kept doing short films outside of that class, and like outside of high school, did some freelance stuff. It was all really like, I wasn't great at the freelance stuff. I just wasn't passionate about it.
I get it.
And it kind of all came to a point where I stopped doing the short films. It was just freelance, and I started doing the wedding editing, and it just got so exhausting. Yeah. So that's when I was like, something's got to change here.
Absolutely. We were just talking to Philip Lemoyne about his journey, and he was doing the whole wedding thing, and it is like, you talked on freelancing. First of all, you're in West Michigan, so we're not talking about PAing on feature films. It's kind of like whatever rolls into town, we got to do, which is really difficult, and it's such a hard lifestyle, especially at a young age. And then just you kind of lose that passion, you lose that initial seed when you stop making short films.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so important that no matter what your outlet is, staying creative, keeping a camera in your hands, and that's kind of what led you to the next thing. And can you talk a little bit about when you were finishing up high school, what you were were you thinking about going to college, kind of like debating what would happen next?
Yeah, I honestly was pretty certain right out of high school that I'm not going to go to film school.
Okay.
First of all, not a ton of film schools around West Michigan, but even in addition to that, I just thought, there's a lot of information out there, and I want to figure this thing out.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go a traditional path, and I honestly didn't want to be like a PA and you work your way up to like whatever level. I just wanted to start directing. And something I say to people all the time is like, whether you are directing, a whole massive crew of people with a huge budget, or you're no budget and you're directing just a couple actors and you're doing all the shooting yourself, you're a director.
Yes.
And so at the end of the day, I wanted to be a director. I was a director at that level.
Yeah.
And so I just kept doing that.
Yeah, I love that. Pick up a camera, direct something. You're a director.
Yeah.
And so you're doing the 30 shots in 30 days. People are starting to take notice. And then give me kind of a condensed timeline, because where we're sitting at now is very different from where you were right then.
Yeah, so that all started, the 30 shots in 30 days started in August of 2022, so only about a year and a half ago. And that 30 shots was the kind of the Kickstarter to all of it. Basically, huge growth on TikTok.
Yeah.
I reposted to Instagram, huge growth on Instagram. And through that, I got a partnership with Amaran.
Amazing.
And they've been super consistent with contracts. And I basically just started doing normal breakdown videos with their lights, continuing like making these shots. And I got into recreations and partnered with Shot Deck a little bit.
Amazing.
But everything really hit it off once I did my first YouTube video that was educational format. I recreated the practical effects from Oppenheimer.
Crazy.
And it just blew up. Wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah. We were talking about that video the other night. I can't believe that's your first YouTube video. Like, my first YouTube video was like me dancing in the kitchen, as like a 9-year-old. So you put that out in the space. Obviously, you have a following on short form. Not a huge following on YouTube yet.
Right.
And then what was the impact of just posting that one video, and what were your expectations, and then how did it land?
Yeah, I was expecting, in my head, I was like 10,000 views, that's a success.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is it's now at 5 million views. It just became this huge thing that people talked about. There were like some articles about it, and some people kind of like Corridor ended up mentioning it in one of their videos.
Yeah.
And that was just like, I can't believe what I did had that impact.
Absolutely.
Like, that was crazy. And it was just something that I thought, oh, this is kind of fun. This is kind of cool. I want to know how to do this.
Yeah.
I'm super curious how they did it for Oppenheimer, and they weren't going to tell anybody. Like, they were keeping it all secret at the time, because we did it before the movie released, and then we got the video edited and out just after the release. So there was no information on how they did it. So I was just curious how they did it, and I figured there's a budget way to do it for sure. For sure.
And didn't it kind of come out that like some of the things you were just messing around with in your house, it's like kind of what they did?
Yeah, just like extra resources. They had a more consistency with it.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's like most of the things that we did, it was basically confirmed that they did something very similar.
It's crazy. And that's what I love about, I think this is your Instagram bio, indie filmmaker, aka pro improviser. Is that it? Did I botch that? And that is like what I love about William's videos, is it's very real, and it's not just like, here's our perfect day where everything went perfect. It's like, okay, we showed up, talent didn't show up, all right, Tyler's in the video, all right, this happened, all right, camera broke, okay, we're shooting on an iPhone. And I love that about you. And tell me just about like bringing that authenticity to the screen.
Yeah, I think showing failure is more important than showing success. Because one of the things that was really frustrating getting into filmmaking to the start was a lot of the stuff out there, a lot of the content out there is just like, this is how you do something right.
Yeah.
And for somebody getting started, if you have the expectation that you go in and you copy what somebody taught you and it's going to look great, you're going to be kind of disappointed.
Yes.
There's a lot that goes into these shots, a lot that goes into like doing a video, making films, and there's so many things that can go wrong, whether it's, the weather's not cooperating with you, or your gear isn't as functional as the stuff that some professional was using, or, people not showing up.
Yeah.
And when you don't show that to people, they can get really discouraged fast. And I really want to reach people who are kind of starting out, people
Totally.
who have this interest in film, but they don't know a whole lot about it. And I love the process of filmmaking, and I feel like anybody who understands that it's this improvisation,
Yeah.
like you're problem solving, and they know that that's what they're getting into. Those types of people have a blast doing
Yes.
filmmaking. Like, but they have to know going into it that they're not failing just because things didn't go as planned. That's exactly what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the reality of filmmaking, and I feel like there's some content out there where it's like, here's my perfect day, and it's like that was never my experience.
Nope.
And I was like, this person must just be better than me, but it's really the magic of editing.
Yeah.
And so kind of wrapping up here, editing, especially when we're talking about short form, making a really good hook, can you give a piece of advice to someone who's looking to start making short form content?
Yeah, so for me, the biggest thing that I found was like just doing something cool, like making something visually interesting in the first 3 seconds, basically.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it can be a hook, a phrase, something like that, but for me, it's like, how good is the shot?
Yeah.
And I can go all about like, oh, it's got to be like this in the edit and this in the edit, and like really particular about the edit, but at the end of the day, a good shot catches attention.
Absolutely.
And if I just explain how I did that shot, people are interested.
People are going to want to know. So tease that out, give them some eye candy, and then break down the process.
Yeah.
I love it, William. One more time, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me, William H. Baker, on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I've got a lot more YouTube stuff planned, so you definitely want to subscribe there.
I'm so excited for it. William's content has always been amazing, but the fact that you're foraying into this big space is like, can't wait for it. One more time, William, thank you so much.
Thank you.